Hello, welcome back to Math Time with Professor Prime, and I'm your host as always, Professor Prime. So today we're going to talk about math in the NieR Orchestra concert, Re 12024, the end of data. And I, for one, am looking forward to it. So fairly recently, I was able to attend the NieR Orchestra concert at Carnegie Hall, and it was an absolute blast. They did a world tour of the concert a few years ago, and I was not able to attend that. So this was like so great to have them have this opportunity, and for me to have an opportunity to like go to this concert. It was like wonderful. And so throughout this, I'm going to talk about my experiences with it, but I'm also going to talk about math along the way. Again, like I'm going to have fun, and I hope you do the same. So to just get right into it, right? I'm a big fan of music. I'm a big fan of video game music. I'm a big fan of gaming, and Nier Automata is my favorite game of all time. And in general, I'm a fan of the Nier slash Dragon Guard series. To just set the tone. Um, so getting to go to this concert again, it was just like absolutely incredible. The singers absolutely killed it. The orchestra knocked it out of the park. The conductor was absolutely animated and getting down the entire time, so that was pretty cool. And there was like speeches at the beginning and end. The creator slash director was there, as was the producer and the composer, and it was just cool overall. And so I was enjoying all that in and of itself. But if you've been following along, you know I thought about the math. I can't think about music and not think about math. I can't think about gaming and not think about math. I can't really think about anything and not think about math. And I'm okay with that. And hopefully, if you're not already there, it'll be the same for you. Because math is everywhere and in everything. And that's something that I enjoy talking about. But if we zone in on the music, what I like about that is that so you have the idea of sound, right? So if we start on that base level, we're dealing with vibrations that are passing through our medium, and we're dealing with the inherent properties of that and the reactions of that and our abilities to perceive that and what that means to us. And it's something that's inherently mathematical. I think about sound, I think about motion, I think about math, I think about all the things that we've managed to do with it, right? Because I think about music, I think about singing. Rapping is part of that as well, in addition to like instruments and what we're doing with them. But I also think about talking, and I think about just everything that we're doing and how we're producing sounds, just at any conceivable level, at every conceivable level. And again, that's something that's cool to me. And so, jumping back to the concert, woo, it was great because, they did a thing where there's a visual component to it, and there was a narrative that allowed, like, I think newcomers and longtime fans to enjoy the show and frame the music and the experience. And I think that was pretty cool. And for said music, it's just like it's a wonderful thing because I enjoy it in and of itself, but also just like hearing it live and seeing everybody perform it. It's just a crazy thing because when I'm hearing like the songs and that's just like I'm feeling and I'm enjoying that, I'm also paying attention to what's going on. It's like yes to the screen, um, but also to what the singers are doing when they're up on stage, what the orchestra is doing and what the conductor is doing, and how it's all flowing and how it's functioning. Because I think about sound and like I said what it was, and then I think about like music, and it's like hey, we're gonna take sound and we're gonna create melodies and rhythms and harmonies and what have you, right? Like we're going to have notes. We're gonna have what we want to do with those notes, how long we hold them, how we string them together, and we're going to be creating these patterns and these, just rhythms, and we're going to be making these songs, these pieces of music that make you feel, that set the stage, that set the tone, and that's all math. And if you're not convinced by talking to me about it right now, look into music theory and terminology. Really dig in there, and the math becomes apparent very, very, very quickly. And I dig it. And so, just thinking about music and what it is at that base level, it's like I can't help but think about math, and then just like seeing how intricate it can be, like in that concert setting. And when it comes to like near music, it is like next level. because you have these like wonderfully complex songs, and just like seeing what everyone's doing is insane. Because right, you have the orchestra, and you have different sections of the orchestra, like playing their instruments at different times, and not only is there math in the music itself and what it is, but there's math in the instruments, right? Um, how they're used, what they're constructed of, what you're doing when you're playing an instrument, the motions that you take, the sounds that you produce and stringing along. And in this case, there's that idea that you also have the conductor involved, right? And that conductor is like, leading everyone through that experience. They're moving to the beat. They're, signaling to this section and that section. And there's math in the motions, math in the beats, math keeping up with the beats, math in like different instruments coming in at different sections and playing certain parts of a song, and all to come together to form like this intricate like piece of art. And then that's just like, I'm thinking, when I'm thinking that, I'm just thinking that that's just a song, but you're doing that with several songs. And in this case, you had the visual component, and you had like the storytelling that was happening, right? Like, because we had readings at the concert, like from like 2B and 9S, and that was cool. And so it's like you were so concerned with not just the music, but the timing and the positions of what this orchestra member is doing or that orchestra member is doing, and then like the conductor, and if the singers are involved, you're dealing with the math and them singing, and like working together with everyone else in the song. And if you're looking at the screen throughout um, the concert, you're worried about the timing there too. And there are parts where you had the readings, and you had like the text on the screen. And then there's like parts where you had like different images on the screen, and they were syncing up with the music, and that was really cool. So it's kind of a wild thing, because like if you had like just a part of a song and you're like bum 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 bum, you might like, not only are you hearing it, and there's like, again, math in that sound, math in that music, math in how it's constructed and how we perceive it, and the timing and the number of notes. So like just taking a segment like that, you might have something like that, and you're seeing like different members of the orchestra play what their parts on that. And like I did my motions, because it's like you also have the conductor like doing that. So it's like they might be pointing or signaling, however they're doing that, to the different members of the orchestra, and keeping up with the beats, and like telling people when to fill in and all that good stuff, right? And then you might have the singers again like matching that too. And so I think about all of that. Again, I was enjoying the concert for what it was. It was a beautiful experience, but the math adds to it for me. And again, like, look into musical theory and terminology if you don't believe me, if you're still not convinced, because I have no doubt that you'll be convinced after looking into all of that. You might be singing a different tune. Okay, if you're still with me. Again, like I think the idea of a concert is just like an insane thing, because like sound is already bonkers, and music that adds to it. But then you are not just dealing with the sound, you're not just dealing with the music, you're dealing with the logistics of it all, right? You have this like kind of giant problem that you're solving, like of entertainment and stringing everything together, and everyone is playing their part to make it work. And I dig that. And it's math. And it's awesome. It's math, and it's art, and it's awesome, and it's beautiful. And I enjoyed that concert so wonderfully much. And before I circle back and finish off my thoughts on that, I did want to say there was a lot of, there's a lot of math in just being able to go to a concert and appreciate that. Because for me, I was traveling, and there's math in that traveling, there's math in the transportation, math in the actual, excuse me, expenses, and the concert tickets, the train, etc. And just like the logistics and making that all work. Because like, right, I um I remember when they announced it, the concert, and so it's just like, hey, I am going to have to get these tickets, relatively quickly. So I was keeping it an eye on everything, and it's like, so I had to consider the timing, I had to consider the price, and then the same goes for like the train, and then like the amount of distance that I'm traveling, and the times that I'm traveling, and just keeping track of all that, and then like any expenses that I might have incurred. And in this case, it was a really nice thing, because like, It could have just been me spending a lot of money to go to New York. And honestly, for that experience, yeah, it would have been worth it. But I didn't have to spend a lot of money. I still had to pay like a pretty penny. The tickets were like not cheap, at least from my humble standpoint. But seriously though, right? In this case, it was nice because I had a family member that I got a ticket for that provided lodging. Um, and I was going to pay for the train tickets myself, but I was offered that from another family member, and another family member, along with that family member, picked me up and dropped me off. So it was like really nice in that regard. So it's like I paid for like the two tickets that I got, but I didn't have to pay for the train, and that was nice, or lodging, and the family member that did like host, they were really nice and generous about meals. So it's like I could have spent way more money, and I would save that from family, and that was really nice. And also, when I was on the train ride, and it's like I didn't particularly want to sleep because it was just me traveling. And so it's like, well, hey, I'll listen to some music, and I'll read a book, right? And what was the book I chose? The Prime Number Conspiracy, of course. And so, I had fun with that. Because if you're not aware, right? The Prime Number Conspiracy is, if I had to describe it, right, it's a curated anthology of different quanar articles about math. There's a lot of different topics that are there throughout, but the big focus of that particular book, that particular collection, is prime numbers, which, as you may know, I am a big fan of. So it was really cool because just from that alone, I can't help but think about math on the way. But it's just like, yeah, there's math, of course, in the book and the subject matter, but also like in reading that, and also just paying attention to where my stops are on the train and listening to the music, and just the planning and logistics of that trip, and the money that I could have spent versus the money I had to spend, and everyone who chipped in with that. Right, there's just money across the board, and that more like in that space surrounding the concert, right? And then again, the concert itself, right? And also just in gaming, because when I think about that larger picture, the music in itself is wonderful, right? And hearing it live is such a beautiful, amazing thing. And then when I think about the music in terms of gaming, it's such a beautiful thing too, because music is one of those things where I do think that if you have someone, if and you can get them to see the math in that, it is a pretty nice sell. And the same can be said for gaming. Because I feel like once you see it, you can't really unsee it, and that's not a bad thing. And when I think about gaming, there's just so many aspects and avenues that the math becomes a little bit more apparent because it's always been there, right? Like on the surface and behind the scenes. And if we want to focus in this case, right, it's like NieR is a wonderful game, and it's just it's screaming math at you. And when I think about something like the gameplay, you might be, battling, this adversary, that adversary, and it might be a particularly tense scene. And it's like, not only is there map and, the motions that you're taking, the damage that you're dishing out, the damage that you're trying to avoid taking, the chip system and how that's suited to 2B if you're playing as her, or, other characters like 9S or A2 later on. So there's math and all that, but the music is there along the way, shaping the atmosphere, shaping the tone, amping you up in certain situations, while making you feel some real deep stuff in other situations. And it's just such a crazy, wonderfully bonkers thing, and I'm here for it. And I could really talk about this all day, but I am going to draw this to a close because it's been a long day and my voice is getting tired. I do have some water though, but still. In closing, though, I could not think about this concert without thinking about math, whether it be my travels and the expenses surrounding that, or the concert itself and the beautiful music that I heard. And of course, the music and where it started in the game. It's like I can't think about any of those things and not think about math. And that I think is a wonderful thing because math is everywhere in everything, and it is everything, and we don't talk about that enough, right? We get into our ideas that math is just this one thing, but to see it in that academic sense and not see it past that is very much missing. It's like it's missing the point. But I want to be clear, like that's how it's typically taught. That's not like necessarily on the learner. Um, that is a larger problem, and I hope to change that over time. But that is a whole nother thing, and this is part of that. But to close it out, I enjoyed going to the NieR Orchestra concert. It was a truly wonderful experience. It was like surreal. It was just, it was the best. And I will see you in the future. Professor Prime out.